Hey, how are you guys doing? As I promised, I'm going to do some more videos again, live streams. And today I would like to talk about real spirituality. Yeah, I know people say, oh, I'm spiritual, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But, in real spirituality, there are no shortcuts. Real spirituality can mean that you live like a hermit, and you feel very lonely, and there will be a time in your life where you feel like there's no one who loves you. You just want to be alone because you're like hypersensitive. You don't want to interact with anyone because you're just busy with yourself and your body is changing. And the worst part of spirituality is you can quite feel miserable and really, they call it dark night of the soul. Hi Peter, hi John, hi Arion. I can just talk about myself, but I've seen it with many other people. I have been in Tulum, I have been in Mexico, I have been in India, I have been in Africa, I have been in Australia, I have been around the world, I have been all over the world. And I have been also just recently to Nepal, to Kathmandu. And it was dirty, it was filthy. The rivers were full of dust and dirt and garbage. It was just not funny anymore. But then in the midst of all of this craziness, you have Mount Everest, and people pay thousands of dollars just to climb Mount Everest. The air is filthy, dirty. I got really sick. I couldn't breathe there. Not because of the high altitude, because I'm a mountain baby. I don't care about those things. I don't have issues with that. It was just really, really dirty and dusty. And yeah, as I said, in the midst of this, you drive like 45 minutes. You get like the hill area, the hills and the mountains. And there are some caves. And those caves, it's the other side of Tibet. So you have the Himalayas, the mountains. It's not just, Himalayas are on that side. You have the mountains, the Mount Everest, but on the other side is Tibet, right? And Tibet had those very high spiritual monks. And they had all the knowledge to themselves. And now we are saying, yeah, maybe the Chinese, they were so bad and they're killing all the Tibetan. That was one reason I didn't go there, because my friends said, Agatha, just don't go to Tibet. The Chinese are still killing the Tibetan people. They're covering and looking like local monks, Tibetan monks, but those are actually Chinese. There's a lot of prostitution going on. The Israeli soldiers are traumatized. They're taking drugs there. So a lot of stuff is going on there, which is not that great. Even Dalai Lama had to flee from Tibet. And even as we know, even he has some issues about women, about some with children kissing and taking out the tongue and whatever. I have read a book. I know I'm talking a lot right now, but it will come into a round circle, okay? So please just stay with me. I was reading a book. And in Catholic society, it's forbidden that priests sleep with women. Buddhist monks it's forbidden to sleep with women. And so many other cultures, it's forbidden to sleep with women. And then in the spirituality, you find always men leading the whole scene, right? But at the same time, it's weird because the woman has no value. Yes, I'm a woman, but I'm also speaking from observing. But at the same time, the woman is the one who bears the child. So a man comes from a woman who has no value. That means the man has no value, is it? I mean, just to go with logic, just to go with like brain. So then in the Catholic culture, in Germany, I'm from Bavaria, okay? I'm from the Munich area. So many priests had children. And the church would pay up to 3 children, even though the priest was not allowed to have children. But the church would finance those children. In Buddhist culture, I went to a resort. The Buddhist monk, he was really, really nasty. They get involved a lot into politics, especially in Sri Lanka. They're really nasty. And that guy, that monk, who claimed to be like a really high-ranking monk, he was sleeping with a prostitute. I saw him. I saw the prostitute coming out of his cottage, and I'm like, okay, what the heck? But he was too good to sit with me and the driver, because in Sri Lanka and India we have a caste system, so they won't sit with a driver or an employee. But I did, because he was driving me around. He was almost my same age, so of course I sit with him on one table as long as he respects me, right? So I'm talking about spiritual here, being spiritual. So those people claim to be very high-ranking spiritual people, but acting in the human 3D world, they don't. Oh, can you actually hear my, can you hear me? I might, the camera, maybe. Just let me know if you can hear me. So, I was talking to those monks, I was watching them, I'm observing them. As I said, in the Catholic scene, the church knows about it, they pay for the children. Hi Natalia, she's my moderator, she's helping me a lot. Hi Anne. And then I went to Nepal, so there are a lot of caves. In those caves, they're very spiritual monks. And now listen, the real spiritual people, they will not go out into the world and do big time marketing because they want to be goddamn alone. They want to be left alone. They want to be by themselves because they're very, very highly sensitive, okay? That means they will know what's going on without even talking to someone. They will feel what's going on because they're very, very high sensitive. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, because I'm facing that. It's like when I'm at a noisy place, or I have a neighbor in some house and he has, whoops, sorry, weird energy going on. I can feel it, and it's really annoying, and sometimes I just rather stay in the house, in my home, and not have to face any people out here in the world. Or it's even sometimes difficult just to be on earth, because people are just reckless. They just walk by you, they cross you, and they don't realize what's going on in the world. You have value just as much as any. Yes, I'm not talking about myself. I'm just talking in general about women in spirituality. But thank you, Murphy. Hi, Raymond. So what I have noticed that the people who say that they're very highly spiritual, you should watch out. The real spiritual people, they will not say they're highly spiritual. They might say it once, but not all the time, and they will not do a big time marketing. So those monks in Nepal, they have amazing ability because they're sitting in the cave meditating. But what they do while meditating, they're not just sitting. Like people in this world are learning, oh, when you meditate, you have to calm your mind. You don't have any thoughts. No. So what those monks do in those caves, what they do is they have a certain breathing technique. And I'm not talking about the breathing where you leave your body and then you get disconnect, because that's like an, sorry, I call it suicide. It's like when you take ayahuasca, when you take drugs, when you take psychedelics, those are all shortcuts to spirituality, but it will not help you in the long run. So what happens is, if you get disconnected from your body, it gives you like a near-death experience, which is not helping the purpose. Yes, your soul, your body is opening up to certain emotions and feelings and experiences, but you can't hold them for long, and you always depend on those drugs. That's not real spirituality. That is a shortcut, and that is just fake. It's like doping in sport. So what those monks do in those caves, they do the breathing technique, but they clear up their kundalini, and we have a lot of nadis where there are a lot of energies, and they're clearing them up to increase their energy, but at the same time they're more anchoring into their body, so their body becomes crystalline. The carbon based body is healing, transforming into crystalline energy, because we are minerals. That means we are able to levitate, we are able to have telepathy, we are able to do telekinesis, and that's what those monks do. So when you find a fingerprint burned into the stone, it's because they have learned to control their body, because we are like a battery. We have all the meridians. One is plus, minus, plus, one. So it's like we have plus and minus energies. All the meridians in our body have a certain vibration and an energy polarity. And what they do is they learn the mastery of mastering the body, mind, and soul. And that is not just sitting in a cave, but it means learning about yourself. And I always say you cannot help other people being a healer, starseed, or whatever if you don't know who you are. You need to know who you are. That's most essential, okay? What advice to maintain inner peace in a crazy world? Yes, it's not easy. What I do is, and I wanted to do a video about it, I forgot. I will talk about timeline shifts. The thing is, what you need to do is you shift your timeline by changing the frequency within yourself. And then you will be like in the worst hurricane ever, but you will be like in the eye of the hurricane. I had that so many times in my life. But what happened is when I went back to Sri Lanka, it just switched me out of my timeline, which was a really amazing timeline. And now I'm just getting back into a good timeline because I really had to face my karma again. And what those monks do in those caves in Nepal, in Kathmandu, in those caves, they actually clear their karma with the, it's a breathing technique. It's called, I forgot the name, Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga, it's actually not a position, it's a way of breathing to clear out the karma within you. And karma is actually something which is stored in your DNA, which is from the ancestrals. They call it sin, but it's actually not a sin. It's something we do a lot. We starseeds do a lot. We help our family ancestral lineage to heal and clear, but it's not our duty to do that. It's not our duty to take on some karmic lessons from other people, because if you take on the garbage from other people and you keep clearing it, they cannot do it themselves. So therefore we have more karma and they have not less karma. They still have their karma to do. So real spirituality means that you can feel really lonely, you can feel really crappy because you're going through certain stages of your life to clear out everything within you, around you, and in your whole personality. So real spirituality is not taking drugs and taking the shortcut and listening to other people. It's actually really trying to learn to get to know yourself, to understand who you are, where you came from, and what your abilities are, and that will be always different from other people. Hi Rowena, hi Trini, hi Marie, hi Christian. So yeah, if you always have questions, and just leave some comments, just ask me the questions so I can do more videos on it. But what I really found is, and that was also very interesting, so that monk was sitting in that cave and he left some handprints burned into the stone, so you can see the abilities, but they also had forehead prints and also footprints, which we also find in Sri Lanka, in Adam's Peak, but in also many other countries. But at the same time, there were some beggars on the street going up the temple, and one guy, he didn't have hands and fingers, so of course I gave him money, but he was still cleaning the staircase. And I was like, oh my God. And he was singing, you know, he was really a beautiful soul. And then there were so many other ones, drunk, smoking weed, just totally stoned. And they're like, please give me. And I looked at them, I said, I opened also my hand. I said, you give me. I said, I also need help. And then I just walked by, because they just make life easy, and that's not how it works. And then there was one guy, and he really pissed me off, really. He had a lot of beautiful birds caged inside that stupid cradle. And then he looked at me and he said, oh, you can pay some money and we can free them. That's good karma for you. And I got so mad. I looked at him and I said, what about your karma? What about you putting those birds here inside that cradle and asking me to pay for it to free them? I said, I'm not paying you anything. I said, you better let them free, because that will help your karma. I said, what about you? I said, you liar. I was so angry. I was so angry. And then he looked at me, he's like, he didn't know what's going on. I don't think people told him that ever, but I said, yeah, that's not right. You can't just birds which are free by nature, put them in a cradle, ask people to pay for it to let them free and say it's good karma. Excuse me? So you can abuse spirituality, and that's not the point, okay? So you need to please use your brain when you meet and interact with spiritual places and spiritual, so-called spiritual places and people. It's the same. There is those, to me, they're Freemason, they're Illuminati, and they claim not to be. It's like Dr. Joe Dispenza. I mean, sorry. They're talking about femininity, they're talking about the divine, and then it's all guys out there. Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, Deepak Chopra. He was actually, do you know how he got famous? He was with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he got famous because of the Beatles in the 70s. You know, they had a huge center in Holland, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. They made a lot of money just by selling products for like 100 times more than the value actually is. They asked a lot of money for initiations and mantras and chantings and pujas, like up to 5,000 DM, 10,000 DM, just to get certain mantras and pujas. And you're telling me that's spirituality? It's not spirituality to pay a lot of money to be hype and to be in. Sorry, it is not. So Deepak Chopra got famous because of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Do you know those things? You know, you need to do your research. You need to understand what's going on. But most of the times you can't even find it in the internet. How do I know? I was doing TM because I was born in Germany in a time where we were not even allowed to talk about yoga and meditation because it was being called a sect, a cult. But my foster family did it, so I knew about it. And when I started doing my research, because as a child I could feel there was something wrong, I was like, wow, what's going on? And then there's a movie called David Wants to Fly. Watch that movie. Watch the movie, David Wants to Fly. So you're talking about spiritual people being spiritual, paying a lot of money, and you can't buy enlightenment. Enlightenment can be very painful. It can be very, it sucks. Really, it sucks. When I had huge major shifts getting my psychic abilities, I was 1 year in bed. I'm not saying you have to, but that might happen. So I was 1 year in bed. I couldn't walk. I was walking like a drunkard because I was dizzy all the time. Then after 7 years, I twisted my left ankle. I was forced to stay in bed and I was just sleeping for 6 months, 15 hours a day because my body needed to rest. I didn't have time to work. I didn't have the energy to work. And I was really touching my resources. But real spirituality means you have to trust Source, that Source looks after you. And you will be lying in bed. You'll not be able to move or do anything because your body needs to recover and align the energies within yourself. And trust me, it's not funny. And when people say, oh, I'm spiritual, I'm this, I'm that, and they're pretending to be all hype up and sorry, that's not how it works. And if you talk to real psychic people, they will all tell you the same experience. And you can't market real spirituality. You can't market that. Because universe will send you the clients, universe will bring it to you. Is their breathing technique similar to some of the fast-paced, intense no, that's Aya. Thank you for reminding me, Raymond. So Kundalini, more slow and deep. That's wonderful with the happy man cleaning the building. Yeah, that was really, really beautiful. I was like, wow, what a beautiful soul. So the breathing is what people do in the breathing now is when they hype it, they do a lot of hyperventilation, which is again near-death experience, and that is not helping you. It creates more trauma. I remember I was sitting in Tulum with a group of young people, and then they were talking about ayahuasca, and then they were like, oh, have you done it? And if you do it, you're like one of us. No! Sometimes you just feel lonely. Sometimes you are just lonely, no matter how many people do the same thing what you do, because that's what it is. You're going through a certain stage of processing and releasing a lot of dirt from your aura, from your body, okay? It's like a detox. So they were hyping it up that ayahuasca is amazing. And then there was one, and I could hear their souls, and I could hear their souls screaming and crying. And I looked at them and I was like struggling not to say something because it was a friend's birthday. And then another woman, she was doing that breathing. She was a breathing therapist. And I looked at her and I could see her eyes. They had no light. she was totally traumatized. They were like, you couldn't see the soul. Like her soul was totally disconnected from her body. And I just looked at them and I was like, I don't know what you guys doing, but just because it's an hype right now and people pay a lot of money for it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. It's not right for everyone, especially not for starseeds. Starseeds are incarnated, born high-ranking ascendant masters coming on this planet to be on this planet in a body to help humanity race. We are not here to leave our body to go somewhere else, because that's not how we are not able to help like that. So please, if you do a breathing, yes, you might have an out-of-body experience, but not through hyperventilation. It will happen naturally just through breathing. When I do breathing, I don't like it, to be honest, because I always get an out-of-body experience. It's a near-death experience, but I never hyperventilate. It just happens if I start breathing in a rhythmic way, which they do in Kriya Yoga or whatever. I just really wanted to share this information with you. So please, don't get caught up by what people say. People can talk a lot and they can talk very well, but it doesn't mean it's the truth. The truth is felt in your heart, and I know that it's very difficult to feel your heart nowadays when there's so much craziness going on in this world. So therefore, you have to go in not ventilation, you go in hyper, what is it what a bear does when they sleep? Hyper something. A bear sleeps for months then to come out later. So you need to do that once in a while to start feeling yourself and to realize what's going on within yourself. You have to retreat, but with yourself and no one else. Okay, I love you guys very much, and I talk to you soon, and I will talk about the timeline shifter next time. Okay, thank you. Hibernate. Yes, bears do hibernate, and people, we also need to hibernate once in a while to get connected again with ourselves. Hibernation is really important. You can't do that with other people. You have to do it by yourself, because you want to feel yourself and not the other person. Bye.